One, two, one, two, one, two. We are your premium account X required. I don't want to just remove it. I don't want to do nothing on X no more. They talk about a premium account. Are you kidding me? Save changes. All right. I want to thank anyone that will tune in. This is Jamil Salib Zamir out of Manning, South Carolina. Sincerely thanking you all for all of your support. Those who will support, thank you for your 2 and 3 minutes of watching my broadcast and ostracizing me from everything from the first 2 seconds of what you think you heard. Thank you for assuming that I'm arrogant. Thank you for assuming that I'm trying to cause havoc and race wars and all of this foolishness and nonsense. Because all of that turns me further to Allah, further to God, not the God you serve, because the God you serve says that you're right and you're in the majority. So why should I go that way? I'm not going to go that way. I'm going to go with the Lord of all the worlds. I'm going to go with the man that Jesus Christ prays to. I'm going to go to the man that Jesus called Father, the one he says no one gets to the Father but through me. I'm going to that source. I'm not going to go to the source that you created and try to plead my case before that. So I thank all of you. It's painful. It's lonely where I am. You raise your children and everybody else with truth in hopes that they will really sincerely in their heart come to this truth, because that's the only way you're going to manifest the reality of that truth. But you find that your children are so weak in terms of the world and what's right. So they teeter-totter between what's right and the world. They don't want to be alone. So you're fighting by yourself. Now, my children, if you do something crazy, how are you, Miss Offline Loaded? Join. I hope you join for the right reason. I hope I don't remember you, but I hope it's not somebody trying to solicit me for naked pictures or nothing like that, because I don't get into none of that stuff. I don't care about no woman's naked body. I can get all that stuff online for free. I ain't paying nobody for none of that. So I don't want to get involved with none. Don't come to me with none of that. Not that you are. And I appreciate you linking on, but that's for everybody. Don't come to me with none of that naked and crazy behind mess. I'm not paying you to look at your titties and your ass. That's just crazy. Asinine. I got 6 children to take care of. I ain't got no money to be given to nobody. So let's get to today's subject, House of Cards. And I entitled it The House of Cards based upon the series. I can't remember whether it was on Netflix or Hulu or whatever. But we are in a period, literally, of a house of cards. And people, politicians, white, black, any color, when you know that they are a liar, when you know that they are playing you for a fool and you point it out to them, they get offended by the fact that you know that they're lying to you. So in the scripture, and everybody in the Bible now, but they seem to skip over the parts where Christ points out the devil and says, I know you, you are of your father, the devil. He was a liar from the beginning and abode not in the truth. But when someone tells you, hey, I know what you're up to, you get offended. So black or white folks in Clarendon County, listen, y'all are living off the residuals of what your parents did to black people. You don't have to shake in your boots for that. That's fact. You still don't like black folks, most of you. You still don't want us to have a power position unless we are under control. We're talking the House of Cards and we're talking politics. There is no black politician that gets a top spot without doing something for that spot. But yet we are made to believe that because they are black, they are for us. Let me tell you something on a local level. In your county council and in your city council, these Negroes, the majority of them are so wicked, the black ones. Certain things you expect from other people. But when you vote in your own people and expect them to be fair to you. So I'm saying all of this before I get into, I'm on my soapbox now. Before I get into how I vote, my method of voting. I voted for Donald Trump twice because I looked at his record. Not because I think he was going to do anything of great magnitude, but there was benefit in it if you could take advantage of it. So I want to go over some things today about the Democratic Party. I want to go over some things today about the Republican Party. because many of us think that Democrat is black, Republican is white. Most of us don't realize that we started out as Republicans, not in the same with the same mechanics that it is operated under today, but nonetheless Republican, because Abraham Lincoln, who freed the slaves, was Republican. I'm going to say it again. Abraham Lincoln, who freed the slaves, was a Republican, not a 2024 Republican, but a Republican nonetheless. And Abraham's stipulations of freeing the slaves was in hopes that they would go to Barbados or Jamaica or Haiti or somewhere where they would no longer be a burden after building this place called America. He says in his writings he never thought that blacks were equal to whites in no way, shape, or form. That's the truth. But truth is difficult for some people to deal with, especially when they know that the lie gets them what they want. President Barack Obama did not do all he could have done for black people. Kamala Harris, look up her record, says that whatever she does is not just for blacks, it's for everybody. But President Obama specifically pointed out the LGBT community and lit up the White House for the LGBT community, my people, whom I do a lot of business with, whom they know I am not judgmental or anything else pertaining to gay or lesbian or bi or any of that. None of it. That's something you got to deal with God. You cool with me? We cool. I'm still on my soapbox. We're getting to the point. Brick Baby. He's a gangster from LA. He was on the No Jumper podcast and he got into some fisticuffs or conflict with another group of people. And when he came back on the air, he said, I would have crashed out on y'all. I would have called the kill squad if it wasn't for these white people in the building. So even the toughest of ours among us still have fear of white folks. Why? God says that the fear of, the scripture says that the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom, not the love of God. See, most of us are claiming to love God, but not fear God. I'm coming to this is not going to take long. So we don't have no fear of God. Therefore, everything around us, we are afraid of. So rather than face the fear, we flip it around and say, I love everybody. I love this person. I love that person. That's not God's instructions. Right is right. Wrong is wrong. We must use discernment. And this is for my family, for myself, for my children, for anybody. I don't harvest wrong. I just was in a conversation with a young lady whose daughter is deaf and is being bullied in school by another girl whose father is a police officer, but she's not being reprimanded as she should be because her father is a police officer. Where's the justice in that? Right is right, wrong is wrong. Joe Biden put all of these black boys and black girls in prison for marijuana charges. Now his son admittedly sold secrets to Russia, espionage, selling secrets, smoking crack cocaine, spending government money on prostitutes, and he's still holding his title, still holding his job. But yet, Joe Biden categorized black men as super predators. He did it. Hillary Clinton did it. Bill Clinton did it. And Kamala Harris did it as well, along with Barack Obama and many other presidents, Reagan and Bush, who claimed that he got all of this crack cocaine from a black boy who asked him to save the community. This is warfare, and we are not equipped to fight a war. So what do? We don't call on God for strength. We say we love everybody. And we don't take the responsibility of finding out whether God is real and whether he will protect us from our enemies. Politics is nothing but a power game. That's all it is. If you benefit from it, you benefit. If you don't, too bad, so sad. But white folks wants to keep their position. That's a fact. I mean, don't stutter about it. Don't lie about it. And if you can help a few black folks along the way, I believe that you will. But not if they conflict with your political beliefs. That's partisan. You either with us or against us. But the only thing we can utilize now is a bipartisanship where Democrats and Republicans work together for the good of the whole. We're getting into a house of cards because what you witnessed in Joe Biden's resigning from the presidency, what you witnessed is something that was literally never done before in the history of America. Literally. Not in that way. He didn't come before the American people talking about resigning. He wrote a letter. And the majority of the people, Democrats who backed him, who were white, powerful Democrats who benefit from the democracy. And I'm gonna show you how Democrats benefit from the Democratic Party. While you think, just like thinking that the NAACP is all black or started by black folks, that's not true. The NAACP is a Jewish and white organization controlled by them and put before us as black folks who most of the time are put there to keep us in line. Have a party, have a parade, but don't get too political. Wait for a white cop to kill a black boy and run towards that and look like you're pro-black. But don't mention anything about the school system and other areas in which we should attack. So Kamala Harris was asked point blank, was President Joe Biden in a position mentally and health-wise to hold the seat of a president? And she lied. Out the gate, lied. And every black woman who was put before the American people to answer questions about Joe Biden lied to black people. So we are rah, Joe Biden. He's not too old. And since 2020, around that era, you could see that the man was having problems with his mind. I know I have problems with my mind at 55. Due to operations and other illnesses, I have problems with staying focused. I have anxiety. I have confusion. This man is up in age, 80 something. And the Democratic Party turned against him. And now he's broken. When I was on the street hustling my little marijuana, making money, when I was being a father to my children, all the women looked at me like I was a bum. When I started hustling marijuana, all those same women started coming to me and opening their legs up. I had a grocery store of coochie if I wanted it. But the minute I left drugs alone by choice, those same women turned their back on me and the men too. Because I couldn't provide them, because I was the weight guy. I sold the weight. Fridays, I make at least a couple of $1,000s selling weight. And it was painful. So I believe that Joe Biden is hurting. Very painful. To be ill and still try to hold the office because he believes that the people are behind him, and then make a few blunders, and then they turn. It could have been done more diplomatically, but that is just proof of how politics work. So my point is, we have come full circle. Now I'm going to get into the broadcast. We're 14 minutes in. Thank those of you. I had like 8 followers just now. Thank those of you who stayed on for a second and got off. Y'all are really something else. You know, we don't study anything, and I'm going to talk about that when it comes to voting. And that's why we remain in the condition we in. And then when we get frustrated and angry, we want to start shooting and fighting and talking about the white man, the white man. Well, it's not the white man in 2025. It's the ignorance of black people who keep black people in ignorance. It's the ignorance of the upper class blacks and the willful ignorance of the lower class blacks that keep us in the position we're in. But the upper class blacks thinks that they have a place with another race of people. You got another thing coming. So let's go into this broadcast. I entitled it The House of Cards, Political Ignorance and Outcomes. And I want to apologize to Instagram. Last week I did this my first political promo about politics and what Democrats do and what Republicans do. And I thought it came out, and I don't have a team of people. People have gotten so disconnected from the struggle that all they can think about is making a dollar, partying, screwing, and selling dope and smoking dope and having a good time. But anything that pertains to a long struggle of pain and suffering, and I am in a way where I am suffering from anxiety to the point where I'm not going to show you the whole report, but I had to be rushed to the hospital, and every single test I took, everything is high, everything. And it's because of stress. And I never recovered since my operation and since certain situations in the neighborhood of which this political figure thinks because he got his name off the property that if something happened to one of my family members that I ain't going to come see him. I'm coming to see you, brother. If I'm alive, I'm coming to see you. But I'm praying I don't have to come see you. But this is just a proof positive of how the Democratic Party lie to their own people and create situations that get people killed. He is a prime example of that. He is a local politician, and voting for him is bad news. I don't like you at all because you got a position that you could literally be a good person, but you prefer to do acts of kindness and sneak behind people's back and destroy this all of Sugar Hill. They don't think they're involved, but they are. This was a quiet community after getting over certain situations until you know exactly what you did. You know what you did. You know. This is personal, sir. Because if something happened to one of mine, something going to happen to one of yours. Might be 2 or 3. I don't care which way it go. I pray that Almighty God give me the ability to crash out. And if I got to die, I'm going to die because I give my life to God. I will strap explosives to myself to get rid of you. I promise you that. Now, because when a person plays with your family, I'm coming to a point. This is not emotional. When it comes to presidents, they're playing with your family. Barack Obama played with our families by promoting homosexuality. He played with our families. We gave him a pass. Kamala Harris played all of her life and worked her way up in politics and got where she got by maybe hard work, maybe not. We don't know. But she's not qualified for the presidency of the United States. But if it's locked in, it's locked in. And it's got nothing to do with her having a biracial, having a white husband and white children. It's got nothing to do with that. Because I love, what is the lady name? Can't remember her name right now, but she has a white husband. But she tells truth. Has nothing to do with that. So let's go into this thing. The house of cards. It's folding. It's falling. The scripture says when Satan cast out Satan. Y'all know how we like to do now. We like to go on websites and stuff. Satan cast. Let's see if I can find it out. We're going to be finished in no time, but I wanted to bring this to the forefront because the only thing we got left is the Second Amendment. And I'm going to read what the Second Amendment is in a minute so that you understand what it's all about. So the scripture says in Matthew 12:26, it says, and if Satan cast out Satan, he is divided against himself. how then will his kingdom stand? That's where we are. The Democratic Party casting out the Democratic Party. Satan casting out Satan. How can it stand? They turn their back on the man. But I want to read some things to you, how this thing goes, then we're going to shut this down. When Jesus Christ was raised by God, he came after those who claimed to be doing what he came to do. So you got people who claim to be casting out demons and speaking in Jesus' name, but Jesus came and said, you're not doing my Father's work. You lying. Jesus said that. You are not doing my Father's work. He said, there are many, let me see, are many who will come in my name. Let me see if I can find that. If not, we're going to move on. But I like to have proof of things. You know what I mean? And that's why I love the internet. Matthew 24:5. Matthew 24:5 reads as follows. For many will come in my name saying, I am the Christ, and they will mislead many. And this is where we are. We're in a period of being misled by emotion. You're emotional. The uppity black women want Kamala to win to prove that black women don't need no man, but she had a man and he white. But as long as he ain't black. Joe Biden wasn't off the ticket for a couple hours before y'all had Team Harris ready to go. And in no time flat, miraculously, she raised $80 million and didn't even go on a campaign yet. Well, where the money come from? Who's paying her off and for what? It's politics. It's bigger than most of us. We can't handle it. But you don't care because you don't see the relations of what's going on in the world and what's going on in your community. But every politician is connected to the head politician. All of them are connected together, and all of them are doing the biddings of the politician. It's nothing not unlike Hitler and Germany and the people of Germany, the military burning down the Reichstag and fooling the people that it was some outside enemy and getting them to trust the government, which took advantage of them and enslaved them and eventually murdered 6 million or more Jews and blacks, and was coming after Africa and was coming after blacks in America. Everyone was on that roster for destruction based upon a misunderstood order and based upon weak people in positions of power who couldn't say no. Jesus claimed Jesus came to do so. So those who claim that they came for Christ had to be tested. And in each test they failed. So since they could not fool God or Christ, they went after fooling naive people. I'm going to say that again. Satan is so cunning that he would try to fool God if he could. And since he can't fool God, let me see if I can find it. Fool the very elect of God. Since he can't fool God, he's going after God's chosen. He's going after the very elect of God. Matthew 24:24 of the King James Version of the Bible says, for there shall arise false Christs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. So these people who have never tested God's full potential and power can be fooled. And we are fooled based on emotion. But the world operates in a cyclical motion. What has happened continues to happen, just in a different way, with different faces and different people, but the same thing. Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, a bullet behind the ear, by John Wilkes Booth in a theater. A Republican. Ronald Reagan had an attempt on his life. I don't know, was Ronald Reagan a Republican or was he a Democrat? was, let's see, let me check that out first. I don't want to mislead. That's why you need a team of people. I could have got this answer in no time flat. Was Ronald Reagan a Republican? Let me see. So we can have the right answers. Okay. Yeah, Ronald Reagan was a Republican. It was an attempted assassination on his life. And I think Jim Baker was shot in the head. Because Republicans are expected to follow a certain line of rules. And when they step out of line, they get warnings. And when they don't follow the warnings, assassination. Same things with Democrats. We're going to go into that in a minute. So Ronald Reagan, Abraham Lincoln, and then Donald Trump. Now in 2024, it all played out like a movie, like in a theater. They saw the guy walking up on the ladder. They telling the Secret Service, hey, there's a guy going up there with a gun. He lays down, he puts his scope out, and he gets ready to shoot at the president. I didn't see no drones. When we go to Columbia to the State House to protest, there are drones in the air. I ain't seen that. And there are sharpshooters right across the street from the State House on them buildings, sharpshooters, and them bullets can come off of them buildings and rip your whole body apart. I ain't seen none of that. It played out like a movie, right? So Satan is no longer after the ignorant. We are destroyed. You could be a good person in a bad situation and the stress would destroy you. It's happening to me. Because every avenue you turn around to, the church, people you think, the woke, the gangs, the politicians, they all up to no good. All up to no good trying to get their piece of the American pie. No one is afraid of the God that is being taught about in the churches, the mosques, the synagogues. And the first thing we must have for God is fear. We just love God. Fear of God. We talk God, but we are afraid of circumstances and people. I'm trying to find this in the scripture. Fear of God, let me see if I can get this, is the beginning of wisdom. Is that what it says in the Bible? I read the book so many times, but sometimes I get lost. Proverbs 9 and 10. The fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. That's what it says. Proverbs 9 and 10. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and knowledge of the Holy One is understanding. We must have knowledge of what's going on. I'm coming to a point. Everything I'm saying, it's all going to mix together after I finish these couple of pages that I got. Now, I spoke with a political analyst on yesterday. One of my sons was there while he was telling me everything, and I was trying to type it out. And I asked him, should I say this? Should I say that? And he said, well, you can say that, but just put it in a way that is not offensive. And that's what I'm going to do. Local politics are trying to act like black and white are so in love, but we're not. It's not a God love. It's not a genuine love. Most people want you to follow their path. And if you go off their path, they're no longer going to love you. I'm telling you what I know. I experience it every day. Local politicians, y'all the same way, Republican and Democrat. You want people to be what you want them to be, but what kind of society is it with a bunch of robots walking around thinking the same way, doing the same things? As long as we are under the rule of law, and as long as we are not an anarchist society with tyranny, we should be able to express the talents and gifts that God gave us, express our views. Otherwise, we are under a tyrannical government. And rebellion to tyrants is favor with God, period. So I really want to know God. I'm tired of people, man. I am very, very tired and disappointed with people, especially those upper echelon whites, and especially those elite blacks, the talented 10th, your people who think that they are better than others. I'm tired of you all. We need our educated class. But we need an educated class of people who open the doors for people to express themselves, which is why I am so in love with the Renaissance era of Harlem, when the gays and lesbians were coming out and expressing themselves. If it were not for Bayard Rustin, who was a known full-fledged homosexual, there would have been no March on Washington, because the majority of people there were there for civil rights. And they were gay and lesbians who were walking and marching in tandem with Dr. King. That's why it was so many people. They weren't all agreeing with civil rights for blacks. It was civil rights for all. And so you see now in schools and colleges that they are banning or disbanding the civil rights that were given for loans and other things in schools. And now they are reversing that and giving it to the gay and lesbian community, because they march too. And there are three minorities. White women are a minority, black men are a minority, and black women are a minority. White women going to get it all. Black women going to get the rest, and the black man has got to struggle to get whatever he can get, period. So I want to talk about Dwight D. Eisenhower. When Eisenhower, who was like a middle modern Republican, he took that course. I think I got something about Eisenhower. Let me read a little bit of it. Landmark Civil Rights Link. I think that's John Lyndon B. Johnson. Let me see what this is. Back August. Yeah. Let's talk about Eisenhower for a second, because it's not a lot. It's very short. Eisenhower served 2 terms in the 50s. A Republican, 2 terms in the 50s. 5-star general, sent troops to Little Rock, Arkansas. The Eisenhower administration pushed very hard to get the Voters' Right Registration Act passed prior to Lyndon B. Johnson, whose administration got credit for the act after it passed. So Dwight D. Eisenhower, if you know anything about the Little Rock, is it the Little Rock? Let me see, Little Rock 9, was it? I think. Let me check and make sure. Give me a minute. Anyway, they were trying to integrate the schools in Little Rock, Arkansas. Yeah. Let me read this a little bit real quick. See, my mind is all the stuff that I read over my lifetime in the last 35 years. It's there, but I have no one to challenge me on it. And I don't get to discuss all that I've read and remember and all that stuff. And so it's kind of hard. So I want to try to share this picture right here if I can. I'm going to bring this down to here. Give me a little bit of time, because I want you to see the picture of the Little Rock 9, and I want to add it. There it is. That's the Little Rock 9. I want to read a little bit about it. This is Dwight D. Eisenhower. The Little Rock 9 in 1954, the United States Supreme Court ruled that segregated schools were illegal. The case Brown versus the Board of Education, which literally started with Briggs versus Elliott here in Summit in South Carolina. That was the main, and they fought for it in court to be changed to Briggs versus Elliott, but they would not change it. But Brown versus the Board had become iconic for Americans because it marked the formal beginning of the end of segregation. But the gears of change grind slowly. It wasn't until September 1957 when 9 teens would become symbols, much like the landmark decision we know as Brown versus the Board of Education, of all that was in store for our nation in the years to come. So the Little Rock 9, as the 9 teens came to be known, were to be the first African-American students to enter Little Rock Central High School. 3 years earlier, following the Supreme Court ruling, the Little Rock School Board pledged to voluntarily desegregated school. This idea was explosive for the community, and like much of the South, it was fraught with anger and bitterness. White folks did not want to go to school with black folks, and black folks didn't want to go to school with white folks. In Summit in South Carolina, we're talking about the House of Cards. It's all crumbling down because you're going to have to go back into history now to find out how we got to this point. And as you go back down into history, you're going to find out a lot of interesting facts about Joe Biden, about Kamala Harris, about President Obama, about Lyndon B. Johnson, about Dwight D. Eisenhower, about all of these political figures, even Dr. King and all of these other figures. You're going to find out a lot of more information because there's a lot more information available, and it's necessary so that we can get to the truth and start telling our children the truth so that they can base their decisions on truth and not on lies. Because, you know, you got intelligent doctors and lawyers still telling their children that Santa Claus come down the chimney. They think it's just, you know, white lie, just a little bit of fun. But the minute you lie to your child, they don't trust you anymore, period. So here we are. I want to make it very clear, Democrats have always been just as much a warmonger as any other race of people, as any other political party. If you never heard of neoconservatives or neocons, they were from both parties, of course, Democrat and Republican. Their idea of power was always overthrowing foreign governments. They are former liberal espousing political conservatism, a conservative who advocates the assertive promotion of democracy and U.S. national interests in international affairs, including through military means. The party's traditional establishment is made up of neoconservatives and premises who want the United States to exercise its power around the world and use its military capabilities to achieve any goal, any end. I'm coming to a point. Conservatives, commonly shortened to neocon, is a political movement born in the United States during the 1960s among conservative leaning Democrats who became disenchanted with the party's foreign policy. The term neoconservative refers to those who made the ideological journey from the anti-Stalinist left to the campaign of American conservatism. So they were Stalinists. Look it up for yourself. Neoconservatives typically advocate the promotion of democracy and American national interests in international affairs, including by means of military force, and are known for espousing disdain for communists and for political radicalism. Anybody who goes against their idea. Now, President Barack Obama tried to sell the idea of LGBTQ to Africa, and if they did not go for it, he threatened to sanction them. Means to cut them off from food, water, aid, and anything else. So now you see on Facebook and everywhere else, Africans doing little skits which insinuates and promotes sex, insinuates and promotes foolishness, insinuates and promotes ignorance and buffoonery in order to be recognized as normal. Barack Obama did that. And then Joe Biden came in after that and executed the sanctions. And if you go on the internet, you will hear Kamala Harris say, once we depopulate the earth, which they had plans of killing or culling the earth of over 2 billion people starting in the East with black people. This is all fact. Now, I know I might be flagged on my broadcast, and that's unfortunate because it's difficult to tell truth even when you're paying for it. But you are better loved when you're stupid and ignorant than you are when you have the tiniest little bit of sense. So Jesus talks about the faith of a mustard seed. And that applies to knowledge, desire, fear, or anything else. If you have it just the size of a mustard seed, God will help you in that regard. So I am trying to learn how to fear God, because I am so disappointed in people. All of you that be sending me these private messages through Messenger, you doing the right thing, God gonna be with you, but you won't stand up with me. All of you sending me messages about, man, what you be saying is the truth. And then y'all go and have a black men's meeting and don't invite me. I'm not offended. I know how weak you really are. I'm talking faith-wise, not strength-wise. I'm talking faith-wise. You're only integrating people into the same foolishness that we have all been integrated in already, and you're thinking that you're different, but you're not. That's why there is a church on every single corner and then some. The churches that are different do not allow a lot of people in them. Mostly white, Catholic, and Republican churches, they don't want to mingle with the people. They just want your vote and your money. Now, they minimalized the neoconservative idea. I'm coming back to local politicians. And started utilizing those same tactics in communities. There is a book entitled The Color of Law. And I read that book. And in that book, it talks about how they send people in to nice communities to play loud music, to have loud parties. And then the police are on the side of the people who are breaking the law. And they send these people in to bring the value of the property down so the people who live there, who have spent money on their homes, will leave their homes and sell them at a lower price. And these vultures come in and buy them up and create ghettos. I said it in my last broadcast. Check your county and city councilman's record and find out how many properties they own. They own a lot of them because they're the first to get the first dibs on tax lien properties. And they just buy them up. Don't care whether the house is good, bad, or what. Buy them up, fix it up a little bit, get somebody in there, and I'm done with it. And usually to get their name off the property, they put the property in the name of the person who's renting because they know they can't rent it out to anybody else because the property is no good. So they do that to get their name off the property so that if you call the police, their name is nowhere on the property. Some of your councilmen are doing this, black ones. This is all neocon ideology. We talked about it in the last one. I'm trying to get you to understand that in the 1960s with Dr. King and with the voter rights bill, it was first designed for voter intelligence, voter education, and voter registration. And a few years later, they took out the education part and just started telling you to vote Democrat. This is true. They start wars. You saw with Gaddafi, with Saddam Hussein, Iraq and Iran. They never found a single nuclear weapon in Iran, but they made the American people think that they did. These people are way above my pay grade, way above my ability to talk about. So I'm just pointing out to you what is written already in newspapers and articles. I'm not saying anything that's not already out there. In the 1960 election of Eisenhower, when after John Kennedy was Eisenhower, after John Kennedy was assassinated, Republicans and Democrats were bipartisan, or what were referred to as Dixiecrats. Look it up. They came together to get the voters' right legislation written into law when blacks were persuaded to vote for Democrats. This is where, prior to that, you voted Republican. I did a commentary about North Carolina where they killed all the black folks there and ran them out of town because the town was full of black Republicans who had power in positions, just like Tulsa, Oklahoma. But we ain't had no muscle. See, you young boys out there killing each other, y'all the muscle. But you have no idea how to utilize your muscle, and you got all this built up anger. So you fighting with your neighbors, fighting with your parents, fighting with your cousins. Y'all are not talking to each other over colors and titles. 44 minutes in, we almost done. 1965 Voter Registration Act was enacted. And then Lyndon B. Johnson, Lyndon Baines Johnson, often referred to by his initials as LBJ, was an American politician who served as the 36th president of the United States from 1963 to 1969 when I was born. He became president after the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Excuse me. Of John F. Kennedy, under whom he had served as the 37th vice president from 1961 to 1963. I'm coming to a point. Lyndon B. Johnson and several of the other politicians did not agree with a lot of what John F. Kennedy was saying. And if you go back to some of the writings of John F. Kennedy, you'll see what he was saying. He was revealing too much. This, again, is why I'm calling this House of Cards. Because as I read in scripture, when Satan turns against Satan, it's a house divided and it cannot stand. So I want to show you this if I can. See if I can get this picture up. When John F. Kennedy was assassinated, and as you can see now, it's yeah, you can look at that for yourself. But I want to show you a picture of Lyndon B. Johnson on I don't know if he was on Air Force One, which is it had to be Air Force One. No, I think he's on Air Force Two. But there you see John F. Kennedy's wife, who is distraught. And then you see Lyndon B. Johnson looking back at someone who's winking at him after the death of John F. Kennedy. Just as the assassination attempt against Donald Trump, they could try to blame that on another party, but 9 times out of 10, it was the Republican Party. Right here, you see this person winking at Lyndon B. Johnson after the assassination of John F. Kennedy. I'm coming to a point. I want to read something to you. Let me get myself back up on the screen. We're almost done. I want to read something to you. The congressman who's winking at Lyndon B. Johnson is Albert Thomas. Winked at LBJ after his swearing in aboard Air Force One, Friday, the 22nd, November, 1963. After Lyndon B. Johnson overtook the presidency after the murder of John F. Kennedy, just as Kamala Harris is coming in and literally overtaking the presidency after the murder of, and I'm talking hypothetical because they made the man die before the public eye. It's like he forgot to take his dementia medicine or his Alzheimer pills. Like he was given a laxative or something to be made to look like a fool for fear that if he won the presidency and then got sick, somebody else may take over the position. And of course, you know that these things are already put into place. No matter how you vote, the electoral college has the final say so. So the president has already been selected. I don't care how you vote. That's just to make us feel good on the national stage. But on the local level, we got a little more say so. So Lyndon B. Johnson said, if we sign this legislation, quote, if we sign this legislation into law, we will have the Negroes voting for us for the next 50 years. He assured the black vote for the Democratic Party for the next 50 years because he completed what Dwight D. Eisenhower and his cabinet were trying to push through. He completed it because Dwight D. Eisenhower died, of course, I think in Connecticut somewhere, or Colorado, and of natural causes from what I understand. And he completed that. So like with Abe Lincoln, we felt obligated to Lyndon B. Johnson, who said that he would have us voting Democrat for the next 50 years, and he outdid the 50 because from 2024 to 1964 represents 60 years. So we've been voting Democrat blindly for the last 60 years, 10 years longer than predicted, by giving us the right to vote. Now, I'm not telling you how to vote. What I'm telling you is to make an intelligent decision on how you vote. That was the purpose of the voter rights bill, for two things. The voter rights bill was to promote voter education and voter registration. That was the purpose. Later, it was switched and it eliminated the education part and started people voting based upon emotion and voting based upon personal preference. So here's my point. Kamala Harris is not qualified for the position. She's an intelligent woman. I ain't taking that from her. I don't care who she's married to, but this is how she will be able to win the sympathetic vote of the people. If by chance President Joe Biden dies before November, they will ride into the presidency on the sympathetic vote. As they were trying to eliminate Donald Trump, I don't know why it didn't work. But if Joe Biden is eliminated or dies from natural causes, Kamala Harris is going to ride into the presidency on the sympathetic vote. Not on the educational vote, sympathetic vote. We blindly vote for everybody. Team this. And they done started with Team Kamala. And then started with Trumponomics. Put a name to it, and we own it. The Voter Rights Act would not have passed if it were not for the Republican Edward Durston, senior senator from Illinois. He was instrumental in getting the legislation through the Senate to get the Voters' Right Bill passed. The Voters' Right Bill would not have passed if it were not for a Republican. What am I trying to do? The world is not raised or run by God's law. That's a lie. It's run by politics and whoever's in power. But what I do believe is that bipartisanship, the minds of all parties together for a collective, is better than one person running everything. I believe that. I voted for Kim Johnson after everyone was coming down on her because I believed, as I told her, that everyone deserves a second chance, either to prove that what they did wasn't a mistake or to try and correct the mistakes that they made. At this time, I believe that Fawn Pedalino is doing a great job in whatever capacity that she can. She is very transparent. I receive emails from her. If I text her right now and ask her a question, she's going to text me back. All true. We invited her to our last Juneteenth festival. She came out with some of her constituents. She spoke. She participated. I don't see nothing wrong with a white person here, a black person there, a Republican here, a Democrat there, as long as it is an intelligent decision. Now, this voter rights bill had to be ratified every 20 years. It's not a permanent bill. It has to go back to U.S. legislation, and president has to sign off on it again. So most of the time during the ratification, they change the rules of the game. Since we're not intelligent enough to read, and I'm finding out that most people don't watch the news, they just go based on their happy feeling and say the world is happy because they're not going through any conflict. Give it a minute. You'll go through some. How do you respond to Democratic members that ask Biden to step down now? How should the party move forward after that? If he is no longer qualified, should he carry out the rest of these 100 and some odd days as the president, or should he step down now? How do you respond to that? If he is not well enough to run for the presidency, if he's not competent enough now, is he competent enough to make decisions that could determine how America functions, how it moves in these next 100 and some odd days to November? If he's unfit to run for re-election, how is he fit to finish his term? What's happening? Remember, Barack Obama was opposed to same-sex marriage before his presidency and then became the father of homosexuality after his presidency? He wasn't considered the black president. Bill Clinton was considered the black president. Obama was the gay president. There is no way that we can keep voting the same way, expecting different results. Our communities are falling apart. Criminals are being allowed to get off with crimes to come back to the community, not in the white communities, not in the upper echelon white communities that they're gating off, but in our communities, as if our families don't matter. And see, that's what caused riots. That's what caused people to turn against government. And that's what the Second Amendment is literally for tyrannical governments. Let me see if I can find Second Amendment real quick before we close. And I want to read it. Amendment of the Constitution. Didn't I say the second? I said two amendment. Maybe I should have said second. Second Amendment of the United States Constitution. Let me see if this will pop up real quick. I'm not going to read it all. This is from the Library of Congress. The Second Amendment of the Constitution reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed upon. That's not all of it, though. It's more, because it talks about being well armed against tyrannical governments. And unfortunately, when certain groups of people think that they have control, they are tyrannical. And this is where we're headed. We're headed in a government that says vote like we tell you to vote or else. And so you will find that if locally, if you don't vote for the person they want you to, sometimes the police will turn against you. Your friends will turn against you. Politicians and jobs will turn against you because of your right to vote. So the voter rights bill that we fought, bled, you know, they had the massacre, what was the, oh my God, how can I forget the Bloody Sunday, was it? Let me see. God, give me the strength on this, because I'm trying to finish this and connect this real quick. Bloody Sunday. All of that was for voter registration. Bloody Sunday, 1972. I'm going to read this. Bloody Sunday of the Boxside Massacre. Is this the one I'm looking at? No, this is not right. This is not what I want. Disregard that. Bloody Sunday, I'm going to put civil rights. Voter registration. Let me see if that'll come up. If it doesn't, we're going to move on. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. Bloody Sunday was 58 years ago. We still have work to do. Okay. On this day in 1965, state troopers attacked John Lewis and over 600 civil rights activists at the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama. Bloody Sunday provoked national outrage that led to the passage of the landmark Voter Registration Act. All of this goes in line with Lyndon B. Johnson, who signed the bill in 1969 on the day I was born, the year I was born. And this is what happens when you're fighting for your rights. Blood will be spilled. But we don't want to spill no blood now. We don't want to get it on our shoes. Only the people in the street don't mind shedding blood. And they crazy as all get up. We can't keep voting the same way in closing and expecting different results. 51% of South Carolina Democratic Party is black, but that means nothing because Republicans are in the majority. Out of 46 senators, only 13 or 14 are Democrats. And I advise all of you to go and read the Democratic platform, their intentions. If you haven't read it, go read it. Prior to the 1960s, the Democratic Party was persecuting black people. That's fact. The Democratic Party was persecuting black people. And today, black people who joined the Democratic Party are back persecuting black people. The title of this is House of Cards, and the subtitle was Full Circle. We're right back where we started. You get you some ignorant Negroes who get an education or graduate out of military or graduate from college or get a position, and the first thing they do is utilize the same methods that the white man used to destroy the black family. They use it to destroy our families, destroy our neighborhood, and they give us nothing, and we love them. Republicans were considered Yankees from the North, and the Democrats were considered good old boys in the South. So when you talk about good old boys, you ain't talking about Republicans, you're talking about Southern Democrats. They were responsible for killing all of our civil rights leaders. The good old boys, Democrats. The biggest race of murderers, Democrats. Abraham Lincoln, again, was a Republican. They shot Lincoln and tried to use the same tactics on Trump. So this is my second commentary about political parties. All of this information can be found online, but I wanted to share it with you because I want you to begin to delve, because if we keep going like we're going, it's going to devolve. It's going to get worse. Really look into your local political scene. Never mind that they at the party with you, smoking dope with you, snorting cocaine with you, screwing you, having a good time with you. Never mind that they get you a ticket torn up from the courts or something like that. Look at the big picture. Look at the future. White folks think in 100-year intervals. We think Friday night. I want to thank you all for tuning in. I'm finished. Let me see what I had on this paper. Blind loyalty. They didn't question Hitler. I talked about Hitler. They murdered innocent people. And I don't know if they've completed it, but they're having what is called the Nuremberg trials, where generals and captains and lieutenants and people who murdered innocent Jewish people, putting them in fires and putting them in concentration camps and burning them alive and putting them in mass graves. They are on trial. And their main thing is, I was following orders, but ignorance is no excuse. So they're being persecuted. Who's going to be persecuted on behalf of what's happening now in America? Because black folks have stake now in America. We fought, our blood is all over the streets of America. I told you all that my next broadcast would be about the American flag, and it will be. I just had to get this out first. Again, because people think that they choose God, they think they don't no longer have to fight. They think God is just love, but you must fear God. And when you see a man acting a fool, you must know that God can stop him from doing that. You must fear God. White folks put the fear, they said they were going to put the fear of God in us, and the God of fear they put in us is them. They burned the cross. They raped, murdered, pillaged. They did all they could do that we would be, from generations, afraid of them. This was a psychological game. And now our young think that because they'll buck against the police or fight a white man that they're free from the fear, but you're still ignorant. You're not building anything. This is warfare. White folks are building their future. I ain't saying they're racist. I'm saying they are looking at their future and saying we must build our future. We must do the same. Each race must have their own means of survival. That makes sense. Must have their own idea of God. That makes sense. You telling me that Your white God told you to enslave me, beat me, and I'm not supposed to fight back. And then all of a sudden he changes his mind and say, no, don't slave him and beat him no more. Let him be free. And we can worship with your God, your image of God. I know who made your image of God. We talked about that. Robert Solomon, who painted those pictures of Christ white because he said he wanted Christ to look like his people. I'm closing. We must do better. You can ignore this all you want. All it's going to do is give us more years of pain and sorrow. Death will increase. The weather will get worse. The prices will rise. The turmoil and strife and all of that will continue to get worse if no one stands up. If politics is where the answer is, then let's get in some genuine politicians who mean well by all people, or give them a time limit and vote them out. Don't keep voting in people that ain't doing nothing, and you don't know they're not doing nothing because you're not examining their record. Thank you for tuning in. This is Jamil Salib Zamir out of Manning, South Carolina. What I'm doing is not easy. You are alone. Nobody stands with me, not even my own children. Stand by me and help me do what I'm doing? No, because they want their worldly thing, music or whatever they're doing, that's what they want. And they don't want that affected. So this I got to do. It's lonely, but I'm going to die on this. I love my children and they love me. And if something happens to me by the hands of somebody else, you'll find out just how much they love me. And vice versa. We're going to get into some deep talk about a lot of things. I thank you all for tuning in. We're an hour and 6 minutes in. Yeah, this is a lonely thing, man. I get off the air and I'm so pumped and, want to do and talk. All I can do is wash up and go say prayer because there's no one to bounce ideas off. How did I sound? Did I come off this way? Should I be more relaxed? Should I do this? No, you just want to stay away from anything that's not normal because we follow this thin line of normal sheep, just sheep. And if one falls off the cliff, all fall off the cliff. Thank you for tuning in. Jamil Salib Zamir, Manning, South Carolina. I was broadcasting on 3 Facebook pages, the 19 Report, the Music Man, and Jamil Salib Zamir. I'm broadcasting on Link because this is a political thing pertaining to politics and money, and also broadcasting live on YouTube and on Instagram. And I apologize with Instagram. I don't have a plug to plug in my microphone into my phone, so I had to just do it live. But I thank you all for tuning in. A day is going to come when this foolishness that we are enjoying, youth is wasted on the young. And I wish I was 10 years old with the knowledge I have so I could come out running and so I could fight and beat people up and really just go for it. But I'm too old for that now. And my time is up in that arena. And so I got to do this. And this is what I'm doing. Thank you all for tuning in. Jamil Salib Zamir, Manning, South Carolina.